Planning a curriculum. This chapter pretty much offers some suggestions for planning a word learning fluency building curriculum. Um, Teaching styles, learning needs, and teachers and students' preferences differ from classroom to classroom, even at the same grade level in the same school building. Because of these differences, teaching must involve planning curriculum. Nobody knows the situation in children's learning needs better than the teacher who interacts daily with the children. Teaching philosophies help drive instruction. This chapter makes emphasis on the importance of establishing a teaching philosophy because it can be very helpful in guiding curriculum planning, selecting instructional activities, and evaluating the impact of programs on children as learners. Double checking existing programs, of course, to see if children have sufficient opportunities to learn what's important. Some of the questions that are mentioned here that help establish a teaching philosophy are what do I believe about learning? I'm sorry. What do I believe about literacy learning? What do I believe about children as learners? What is the role of the teacher? What sort of physical and psychological environment best promotes learning? How would I characterize an excellent learning activity? And what role should word learning play within an overall literacy program? Instructional goals. When planning curriculum, it is important to establish a few broad instructional goals that reflect the teacher's beliefs. They articulate expectations for children in a particular grade, provide the foundation for a reading program, describe the general areas within which literacy instruction occurs. The article discusses a few examples of a couple of teachers' goals, um, which are, I'm just going to mention them real quick, to develop interest in and appreciation for books and reading, to develop and extend understanding of stories and informative text, to learn concepts of print and gain an awareness of key features of books and printed language, to develop phonemic awareness, to develop and extend comprehension abilities with a variety of genres, to read fluently, to solve word-related reading problems successfully. Instructional routines. The selection and development of instructional routines are vital components to curriculum planning. A routine is a regular block of time during which students engage in a predictable set of instructional activities related to a particular goal or a set of goals, such as, in this case, for example, would be sustained silent reading, which is routinely implemented for 15 to 20 minutes at a time at the beginning of class. An important point made in the chapter about instructional routines is that these help students behave independently and they know exactly what to expect. We need to base routines on what children need. Planning needs-based instruction begins with determining the child's needs. The chapter highlights the idea that teachers need to really listen to their students. The author suggests that we can do so by observing students, listening to them read, and even analyzing their invented spellings. Talking to children can also offer useful insights. Maximize time on task. Because time spent reading is related to achievement in reading, it is important that we ensure that we maximize time on task. The chapter makes a strong emphasis on this. While having students engage in reading-related tasks and activities is good, it is more important that teachers ensure that students be allowed time to read connected text. The chapter makes three important points. The first one is we need to make our activities or our lessons engaging, varied, and fun, more like a competition, game-like feel. That's one of the recommendations. Activities with competition game-like feel are recommended to get kids engaged while also promoting learning. The author emphasizes that children learn best when they are successful and enjoy what they're doing. The primary goal is to get students to be readers, to see the value in reading for their lives in and out of school, and to feel confident in their abilities to solve the inevitable problems readers encounter. Enjoyable, success oriented word learning activities can support the achievement of these goals. The second point is to make it consistent. Whether the instructional routine is a daily event or a series of activities that take place over the course of a week, we need to try to keep the general structure of the routine as consistent and transparent as possible. If a routine changes markedly from one day to the next, precious time will be spent in explaining and implementing the change. The third point, develop homeschool connections. One clear conclusion from 5 years of research supported by the National Reading Research Center relates to this principle. It says literacy learning occurs both at school and home, and connections between home and school enhance children's learning in both environments. Effective teachers realize the importance of inviting the home and community into the classroom. They know that reading is not just for school, it's for life. The author makes emphasis on the ideas that reading aloud to children, guiding children to read text themselves, and encouraging students to read and write independently and with one another, these are also essential. Struggling readers. Teachers must focus on students' strengths and not their weaknesses, and must plan many daily opportunities for children to help ensure their success with reading in order to leave a sweet taste of reading in their mouth. The chapter describes context as the neighborhood where a word lives. I thought that was a really cute metaphor. I guess put more formally, contextual analysis is a word identification strategy. A reader attempts to determine the meaning and or pronunciation of an unknown word by the way it is used in the text. To do this, the reader uses one or more cues. They use illustrations, graphic aids, or typographical cues that can provide clues to the meaning. So why is context important? Context helps us make predictions about the text. When readers use context to develop notions about what they expect to see, the subsequent reading is more fluent and successful. Talking about context, read aloud sessions offer a powerful context for word learning and a great opportunity to model using context. Selecting engaging books that contain some challenging vocabulary will offer teachers modeling opportunities. Before sharing, teachers should identify a word or two for focus. Then, in the process of the read aloud, teachers can take a moment to explain how they think about the context when encountering that unusual word. This sort of in process explanation can help children see how to use context as they read. Model of vocabulary instruction. The author discusses a model of vocabulary instruction. To learn new concepts, we must first link them to what we already know. For example, if we want to teach a child the concept related to the different forms of government, dictatorship per se, we may begin with a discussion of what they already know about their own form of government. Next, we must incorporate repetition, in which readers need many meaningful encounters with a new concept in context. This leads to automatic access so that the reader doesn't have to stop and think each time or ask themselves the question, now what is that? What does this mean again? What is this again? Every time they encounter the new word. And finally, meaningful use involves many encounters with a new concept. But this time, children use the concept in their own writing and speaking rather than reading someone else's work or the way someone else uses it. They'll do it themselves. Through activities such as reader-selected miscues, close and maze, teachers can show children the power of contextual information. Um, Talking about context-based decision making is particularly critical, and independent reading, lots of it, offers students excellent practical opportunities to apply this knowledge about context. Together, these activities can help children see what decoding tools they have and how they can work together. Instructional strategy number one is the closed activity. The teacher provides a line or paragraph from a familiar poem, song, or book, leaving words out and asking children to fill in the blank accordingly. For example, the sentence we have here is, I will eat some blank Saturday morning as I watch blank. And of course, it would be something just for the example. I will eat some cereal Saturday morning as I watch cartoons. Users naturally fill in the blanks while listening or reading. This task can typically be accomplished with notebook or copy paper or teacher prepared worksheet and a pencil. Instructional strategy number two is sustained silent reading. Students select a book of their choice to read. They choose a location for reading and they engage in independent silent reading for approximately 15 to 20 minutes. The teacher might put on some classical music to set the mood and to mask distractions. A noise may mark the end of each session, after which students may, at the discretion of the teacher, spend a few minutes writing summaries or responses to their reading. Finally, the teacher may ask students to discuss their reading in some brief way. This task can be typically accomplished with a self-selected library book, pen, paper, a book marker, and a timer. According to the author, establishing a consistent routine is a vital component to help ensure students' academic success. As far as literacy is concerned, sustained silent reading, or SSR, is an instructional strategy that, if done consistently, can help improve students' literacy skills. If a routine changes like markedly from one day to the next, precious time will be spent in explaining and implementing the change. Instructional strategy number three is the vocabulary one-pager, which is a FRAIR model variation. In this strategy, students are each assigned a vocabulary word. First, students draw the FRAIR model template. They write the word in the center and label the quadrants in the following manner. The first one is a definition. Number two would be a colorful visual representation. Number three is a sentence. Number four, they would incorporate or write a synonym and antonym. Students are expected to fill in all information that corresponds to each quadrant. They are also supposed to make the page neat and colorful for display in the classroom. Once completed, the students present their work in front of the class. The task may take between 15 to 30 minutes, I guess depending on the age of the student. For this strategy, students need unlined paper or just copy paper, pencil, colored pencils, ruler, dictionary, and thesaurus.